Time to work on the last two pieces, the orders. And again, feel free to pause the video and try implementing this on your own. It's always a great practice. Even if you can't get the full result or full equivalence to my solution, or if you get stuck at one point, you can still then go back and watch the solution together with me, but you will still have a lot of practice by trying parts of that on your own. So here's your chance to pause the video and we'll do it together thereafter. So let's dive into that together and let's work on our orders now. Creating orders and getting the orders, that is what we want to do. And let's first of all look into our controller for that, the shop controller. There we have post order. Now what are we doing there? Well, here, first of all, we got an unused variable, which we can get rid of. There we call add order on the user, and that's essentially it. So let's look into the user model and let's see what add order did. Add order simply took our cart, so the products in our cart to be precise, and created an order object which contained the product data, but also some data about the user, and then we inserted this into an order collection. Now, since we work with a collection there, we'll need a new model, that is for sure. And then as a result, we just cleared the cart. So we got multiple steps we need to do here. First, I'll add an order.js file in the models folder because I'll need an order model to store data in our orders collection. First of all, let's import Mongoose here by requiring Mongoose like that. Let's create the schema constant where we access Mongoose schema like this. And let's then define our order schema and how that should look like. And of course, here you can really also go with the schema that works for you or that you want to use. Now, I will try to recreate the schema we used before, where our order had the items and the user data, and that was it. And the items were our products, which in the past was all the product data and the quantity. So here, in my schema, I will have my products, let's say. I named it items in the past, here I'll name it products. Products will be an array of documents, and every document will, let's say, have the product data, which will be of type object, because this will be a full other document, you could say, that is required. And besides the product data, I'll have the quantity for that product. You could also name this just product here, by the way, if you wanted to. So here, the quantity, that will be a type of number, and this should also be required. Okay, so this is how my products will look like. Now I also will have a user, and there I want to have a name, let's say, where the type is a string, and this is required. And what else did we store about the user in the past? Well, just the ID. So I'll also have my user ID here, which is of type schema types object ID, and which is also required. And this will also refer to the user model. Now, type object, by the way, is a bit of a shortcut. Of course, we could define the full nested product with all the properties there. Feel free to do that. I'll just say, well, this is any object. So this is my order schema. Now I'll export a model based on that schema with Mongoose model named at order, and hence the collection will be named orders. And then I got my order schema there. Okay, so now I got my order model, and that is new. We didn't use that before in the last module. We could have, but now we implemented it differently there. Now, since we use a model-based package again for interacting with the data, we have to be more strict about that, and that is a good thing generally, and therefore we have an order model again. Now, with the order model added, the question is, how do we interact between the order model and the user now? We had add order in the past, and add order essentially just grabbed user data, products, created an order, and stored it. Now, I still want to do that, but I'll do it in a controller now. In post order, I'll work a bit differently. I will first of all import my order model at the top from models order like this. So this import was added. And then down there in post order, I will create a new order object by using that order model constructor. Now that order object needs to be initialized, and it needs to be initialized in the way we defined it here. So it needs to get products and it needs to get some user data. Now the user data is a bit simpler. We got our request user. So here we have the name, which is request user name, because remember, request user is a full user object fetched from the database. So there will be a name property. And we also want to store the ID of that user in the order. We also have like the user ID. So we should store that as well. So we'll add user ID here. And that will simply be, well, we can't just use the entire request user object. And as I mentioned, Mongoose will pick the ID from there. Okay, so this is the easier part. Now we also need to add the products for this user's cart. However, it's not that difficult because we already implemented something similar. For getting the cart, we use this approach for fetching all the products that are in the user's cart. So in the end, we can just copy this here all the way up to the part where I extract the products and reuse that in post order at the beginning here. Just make sure to close that then function here. And here we now got the products that are in the user's cart. Now, important is just products is not entirely correct. You should remember that here we have an array of elements where we have the quantity and then the real product data was nested in a product ID field. But we can work with that, of course. We can now create our order inside of this then block. And here, we can now add products, which should be an array of products. And it should be an array of products, which is a bit transformed. So not the structure of products we get back here, but after some transformations. To be precise, products for us need to have a product field with the product data and a quantity field. That is almost what we have, but we have the product data in a product ID field here, not in a product field. But that is easy to fix. I will simply not just extract items like this. I will also map the items so that I store the changed items in my products array. And a mapped item should still have its quantity, so I will keep that. The I simply refers to the item since this function goes through all items in that array. So we'll have the quantity, and then we'll have a product field, and the product field should have all the product data. So that will store everything that I had in I product ID before, because that was the old structure we had in there. Now we have this structure. We have an array of products which just have a quantity and then the product detail data, which is exactly the structure we expect to get in the order model. And now we can simply store these products in the order. And with that, we got everything we need almost. Now we just need to call save on that order. So order save now saves that order to the database. And then we can chain then on that once we return order save so that we can also redirect and so on. Let's see if that works by going to our shop routes again and commenting the create order route back in. And now back in our project, let me first of all add a second product so that we got something to play around with and see that this does not get added. This is just a dummy product, obviously. So now in our cart, we got no products. Let's add a nice book to our cart. Maybe also from the details page. And let's not add the other product. And let's click order now. Now, we don't find the page we want to redirect to. That's fine. And the cart also was not cleared because we haven't added that logic yet. But let's have a look into Compass. And let's see if we refresh the entire setup. We got an orders collection. And in there, I got an order with some user data that looks pretty good. Let's quickly confirm the user ID. It ends with 8A8. That looks good. And let's have a look at the products there too. And there I got a quantity of 2 and I got my product ID. Well, the product ID, is that what I wanted though? I wanted all the product data, right? Let's fix that in the next lecture.